The Six-Day War, also called the Third Arab-Israeli War, was a war that started on June 5th and ended on June 10th of 1967. So what all happened? It all started with the birth of the British Mandate of Palestine, which displeased both the Arabs and the Jews, causing both to create their own groups to oppose the British. The Arabs created the Arab Revolt in Palestine, while the Jews created the Jewish Insurgency in Palestine. As a result, a lot of tension formed, leading to a civil war between the Arabs and the Jewish. The civil war proceeded to become the first Arab-Israeli war once Israel declared their independence, calling themselves the State of Israel on May 14th and got rid of the British Mandate that midnight. Syria, Egypt, and Jordan, with the help of Iraq, came together and entered Palestine. They managed to take over the Arab areas and also attack the Israeli soldiers and numerous Jewish communities. After the fighting that lasted nearly a year, 10 months to be exact, Israel took their areas originally designed for the State of Israel while also taking majority of the Arab state. That was the end of the first war, but the second war, called the Suez Crisis, came about in the year 1956, where Israel invaded Egypt along with the United Kingdom and France in order to get rid of the Egyptian president Gamal Nasser. While the United Kingdom and France's reasons for invading were about the Suez Canal, Israel invaded due to Egypt blocking the Straits of Tiran, and because there had continued to be numerous attacks on Israel by Egypt since the first Arab-Israeli War. Israel invaded Egypt and went to the canal, but on December 22nd, the UN removed the British forces, and French soldiers and Israeli forces also left in March 1957. While the Israel did not gain the right to access the canal, it did regain shipping rights in the Straits of Tiran. Now that we know all of that, it's time to get to the main topic, the Six-Day War. Since those two events, violent events at that, there has always been tensions brewing between Israel and the United Arab Republic, which consists of states close to Egypt and Jordan and Syria. This tension kept rising and rising as groups would attack Israel, causing Israel to attack back with airstrikes that killed numerous people. The president of Egypt, Gamal Nasser, decided to take a stand and remove the United Nations Emergency Force, as well as close the Gulf of Aqaba and making it forbidden for Israeli shipping. Due to the actions of President Gamal, King Hussein of Jordan swore allegiance to Egypt and gave his soldiers to Egyptian control before Iraq did the same. Because of the alliances forming, on June 5th in the early morning, Israel attacked and destroyed almost all of Egypt's air force, as well as attacked the Syrian air force. This move weakened the Egyptian army, and within 3 days, Israel conquered the Gaza Strip and the Sinai Peninsula that went up to the east bank of the Suez Canal. On June 5th, that same exact day, King Hussein, despite threats from Israel, decided that Jordan would join the fight and had Jordan soldiers attacking West Jerusalem, but soon were defeated by Israel attacks. 2 days later, on June 7th, the Israeli kicked Jordan soldiers out of East Jerusalem. That same day, the UN Security Council wanted a ceasefire, and both Jordan and Israel accepted, though Syria refused and continued attacking Israel until June 9th, where Israel attacked and captured the Golan Heights, which resulted in Syria accepting the ceasefire on June 10th. Though casualties were taken on all sides, Israel lost the least soldiers, with only a reported 700 dying, while Egypt lost more than 11,000 soldiers, with at least 6,000 for Jordan and 1,000 for Syria. As a result, Nasser decided to resign from his position, but after seeing numerous people want him to stay, he decided to remain in office. Israel, on the other hand, proved to be the dominant power and seized the Gaza Strip, the Sinai Peninsula, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights. Through the Six-Day War, we see that violence is always the first choice when both sides have the means to be violent, as well as the possibility of winning. Though before the start of the first Arab-Israeli War, Israel wanted to use nonviolence before trying to use violence to solve the situation, though the Arab states refused. The first Arab-Israeli War is a great example of violence breeding violence, which breeds even more violence, as the Six-Day War is simply a small dot on the timeline of the Arab-Israeli conflicts. This violent event correlates to Frantz Fanon theory regarding the oppressor versus the oppressed. Though at a first glance, it doesn't seem that way, because both combatants have their own army. The Jewish people were, and still are in some ways, oppressed by the Arab states. The Arabs have always denied Jewish people basic human rights and treated them unfairly, with entire Jewish villages being slaughtered in Palestine by the Arabs in 1929, or the Arabs refusing to allow the Jewish to rebuild their national home in the Middle East. Then, as pointed out above, the Jewish were not allowed to use the Suez Canal, and they had to fight in order to get Egypt to allow them to trade. Since Israel was created, it has suffered numerous attacks from the Arabs in order to destroy it. Even to this day, in 2016 going on 2017, the hostility towards the Jews still exists and still causes tensions to rise, with Arabs desecrating ancient Jewish cemeteries or preventing the Jewish to pray at Temple Mount, a place considered holy to the Jews. Though the Jews are allowed to visit at certain times, they are absolutely forbidden from praying, while on the flip side, Muslims are allowed to pray at Temple Mount. This kind of blatant unfairness and oppression of the Jews is what caused all of this violence from the beginning, and the Jewish have gotten no help from the United Nations, which consists of many Arabs who also help to oppress the Jews, while at the same time condemning the Jewish state, which happens to be the only democracy in the Middle East. Even other countries that deny their citizens the basic human rights do not face as much criticism or backlash as Israel.